Some regard NPR as America's Pravda from the Soviet era equivalent. Yet, I'll read an essay that is perhaps not one that NPR would be interested in generally. As far as the political place, it would fit on a spectrum from left to right. I am not one who believes in a traditional left-right political spectrum either. I feel it is largely obsolete nowadays, which should be the subject for another essay. A doctor's right to privately euthanize and abort. Should a physician be allowed to cut, slash, and terminate lives if done discreetly and privately? A recently passed Oklahoma law concerning abortion does not recognize the physician's right to privacy, covering his action abortion of someone else's fetus. In theory, should apply to euthanasia equally well. It is a real stretch of the Constitution to say that a citizen's right to privacy implicitly covers his actions upon others to perform services for them. While an abortion may be legal for a woman to perform upon herself, in privacy perhaps, as it might be legal in Oregon and a few other states to take one's own life if sick and in pain, it is quite another thing for someone else to take another's life or abort a fetus, even with consent of the would-have-been mother. Of course, the fetus doesn't provide consent. The U.S. Supreme Court has never said that an abortion is moral or implicitly meaningless. It instead simply determined that the issue is hidden under the right to privacy all citizens have. When another citizen becomes involved, that privacy has already been compromised, making it a felony for a physician or anyone else to perform an abortion on someone else appears to be consistent with the concept of privacy. If privacy were to be used as a general curtain to excuse illegal acts such as possession of stolen goods or buying and selling stolen goods, the absurdity would be apparent even to members of the court. If one pulled the curtain down on a store before robbing it, the right to privacy shouldn't cover what went on within the store. The High Court should not just decide what things are politically correct to hide behind the curtain of privacy, or how many people can be in the space concealed from legal review. When a city such as Arlington, Texas, is asked to build a new $900 million sports stadium for the Rangers to play baseball in, with parking taxes raised to help pay for it, wouldn't the visiting citizen from Houston have a just right to be excused from paying the parking meter tax because he hates the Rangers and has a right to privacy in his parking space without the intrusion of decadent, corrupt government building stadia when the Zika virus is spreading? Why is the Houstonian's right to privacy destroyed by a superior right to privacy when he does not want to subsidize a private sports authority? It is possible with the New Age interpretation of the Constitution to make it a rubbery document stretchable in any direction. N-dimensional legal interpretative universes have arrived. The U.S. Supreme Court in Roe v. Wade in effect found that the right to privacy covers illegal acts if they are politically correct. Yet that criterion hasn't been applied equally, and, well, elsewhere, privacy seems to be a superfluous concept, meaningful mostly as a tool for the court to allow politically correct and hitherto illegal acts to go ahead. It casts aside if an act is disapproved by the court politically. Privacy as a legal concept is a middle term, syllogistically speaking, used entirely at the court's discretionary whim. And here's another essay. Post-Cold War Abomination, the Spiritual War. The end of the Cold War, with Ronald Reagan inspired Christian leadership and a willing, bungling communist leader accomplice, brought an age of new hope. Irrational exuberance saturated the stock market, and President Clinton signed off on every sort of Wall Street scam for global profits with dire results. President Clinton was also known for moral failures. President Clinton began with burning a rural farm of Christian cultists at Waco, Texas, with the ATF and FBI growing impatient on the 52nd day of their siege. He followed that up with the notorious Monica Lewinsky lip service peccadillo that got him impeached by Congress for lying. School children started shooting their classmates and the grunge era was followed by deeper, darker, satanic musical and media trends. President Obama has taken the post-Cold War moral tangent to a deeper level of hell. At the start of his administration, I noted that his was likely to be an abomination administration, morally speaking, and so it turned out to be. The president has built a homosexual, atheist, and moral ascendancy, creating a spiritual war within the nation, one leftist, atheist, and anti-Christian plan to win. Replacing the external threat Cold War with an internal threat spiritual war, with the aggressor side employing traditional satanic methods of personalized and mass spiritual attack, was a double failure, moral failure of leadership. It was possible to avoid the conflict, just as it was possible to avoid the Syrian civil war simply through not supporting its buildup with cash weapons and advisors. Homosexual civil security wasn't endangered without the usurpation of traditional heterosexual marriage unto themselves. It probably would have been possible to end the homosexual deferment for military service over time, too, if they really desired to kill rather than suck their military foes. The spiritual war is a way that insider scientific atheists can attack the people of the United States that are Christians and traditionalists. President Obama repeatedly calls for change in his place to homosexual as Secretary of the Army and threatened lawsuits on states that are recalcitrant about keeping bathrooms separate for men and women or boys and girls along traditional lines without the blur of undefined transgender right to go to the bathroom any place they want, perhaps on the same day. The spiritual war seems to fit with the president's pro-Muslim immigration policies and de facto policy of increasing Muslim immigration to Europe and terrorism along with it, and transition to waging war upon Christian cultures wherever they are through spiritual means of homosexual marriage, drugs, immigration, and Islam. America is a tolerant nation on the foundation of independence and personal individual freedom. It never has supported government coercion, though, and the spiritual war is essentially a war on the soul of the citizen for the possession of Satan. Science and evolution are great things. Contemplation and research of the universe are wonderful. Curious human beings seeking a better life inevitably work in that direction, just as they would invent blankets to stay warm in winter travel. It would be a tragedy if those drunken with the power of science and materialism further their attack on the human spirit. Religious liberty and philosophy, and their blind quest for power and belief and error that a particular configuration of dimensions and relativity can explain creation of all, that space and extension paradigmata finally account for the set of all things, or that there is no God. Well, I will try to find another essay to read here that would fit in on that. Actions harm, not words or lies or truths. The Nazi prison guard looks over the Jews and sees one that has been excused from going into the gas chamber directly. The Jew told the guard he was a scientist and he really was an electrician, and the camp commandant had a special that week on sparing scientists from execution so they could work on building a nuclear weapon and perfecting evolution theory for political means. How much harm did the Jew do to the Nazi guard by telling him the lie? Absurd philosophical situations like that arise when one credits all lies with necessarily being harmful. Satan may be the father of lies, yet he is also the father of everything evil, including actions that really do cause harm. Lies printed on paper that isn't read do no harm. Falsehoods are not magical incantations that bring the wrath of harm and doom to the gullible. In fact, telling the objective truth to people can, in some circumstances, cause as much harm or more than a lie. It is actions that bring harm to the soul and intentions. That is a point that people do often use to justify any sort of evil. Falsehood is as incapable of doing any good, I think. Falsehoods are wrong, though. Falsehoods are bad. Generally, one avoids them if one is a moral individual. I'm looking for another essay to read here. NPR promoting racism, anti-white politics. NPR is a well-known leftist Democratic Party organ, and as I said, is very much like Pravda during the Cold War. Even so, promoting anti-white racial organizing is not an activity that should receive any federal funding. The majority of Americans are still white and have been so since the founding of the nation. It would be stupid to think the political interests of the majority have not or should not shape national politics. It should do so fairly. Sure, with a black president and hordes of non-white illegally invading people in the civil sector taking jobs, there are better prospects for a non-white majority rising. Non-white internal and external proletariats have a poor tradition of being founders of democracy or defenders of equal civil rights. They tend to be pro-race rights. Mexico is a drug trafficking nation where tight gun controls let drug traffickers enact more murders with guns than American soldiers were killed in the Vietnam and Gulf Wars combined, and in just a decade. NAFTA and illegal immigration has probably not benefited Mexico and Mexican citizens. It would probably be better off without illegal immigration in Mexico regarding the political and economic development.